Chris, did you walk Miley and Ruben this morning?
I didn't actually, but I will be going home shortly to walk them. My wife took them this morning because it took me a little while to get back to sleep last night. But yeah, I'll be going on a nice dog walk as the day's nice later.
We were talking the day after the Barcelona fixture at the Old Trafford, and the sleeping thing is an interesting one because most of the time players cannot sleep after a game. Is it the adrenaline? Do you go through everything that happened in the game?
Yeah, quite often I think it is that adrenaline. I think you spent all day getting fired up for the game, and then it's hard to really wind down. And then obviously so much goes on in the game that you're often thinking about things you see in highlights on TV. So yeah, it can take you a little while after a game to get to sleep.
I'm not a dog person, so this must be the most stupid question you've ever been asked about it. But do you talk to them?
I do talk to them actually. Yeah, I think if people saw me how I was at home with them, I think they think I'm a little bit crazy. But yeah, I think and the dogs are definitely part of the family, and no, it's always nice to go home and see them for sure.
Another stupid question: do they answer back? You know, do they relate to what?
Yeah, they do actually. I think even when you can say certain words, obviously walkies, they'll get all giddy and excited, but no, even some of their expressions on their face, which might sound a little bit weird, but I can tell what they're thinking for sure.
And when you walk them, there's so many opportunities around where you live, no?
Yeah.
The suburbs of Manchester.
Yeah, very lucky.
What are they? Describe that walk. Where do you go?
Yeah, we're quite lucky where we live. I mean, we can walk to a few walks. I can drive 5 or 10 minutes, and we can go down different rivers. There's little places where they can go for a swim if the weather's nice. Big field. Sometimes we've got tennis balls and the thrower. The little one's ball mad. So
and you talk to them then as well. You know, last night I should have done this, and you don't do that.
Not often, although sometimes if I want to get something off my chest and I don't actually want to say it to someone, I can just sort of say it out there, and obviously they're there. But
also they know all your secrets.
Yeah, no, they do. I think they know everything.
And it is a lot to know from your side, because your story is a story of coming through obstacles and being at the top right now. So we're going to go through all of that. But before we get into it, as a consequence of where you've been and what you've done and how you managed to get over all of it, you now are a patron of Football Beyond Borders, which is a charity close to my heart. I'm a patron of it as well, because I felt that they... I'll let you explain it. What is Football Beyond Borders?
Yes, I think it's Football Beyond Borders about giving opportunities to kids who may struggle in school, who may have difficult sort of pasts or difficult troubles at home, and being able to relate to them more. And I think the beauty about Football Beyond Borders is the staff that they have. I think ultimately it's the staff that make Football Beyond Borders successful as it is, because school's a very hard environment for every kid, let alone if you've got a lot of difficulties whilst in your home. So no, they let every kid speak their mind and give them the opportunities that every kid deserves in school, because everyone should have a dream.
And there is nothing more rewarding than a smile of a kid that you've give them a hand, to you help you allow them to grow.
Yeah,
you've already experienced that.
Yeah, I have. I think I've heard sort of so many different stories and the changes that FBB has made, which was one of the big reasons I wanted to get involved. And I think quite often it's just they want to be heard, they want to be listened. I think quite often they can grow up and think that they've got no hope, but all they want to do is just be listened and not be judged for. They might want to do something that's totally different to the norm, and that's good, because I think no kid should be knocked down.
And there's every single case of a kid misbehaving or not going to school, and there is a reason behind it. So out of the stories that you heard from them, which one stuck in your mind?
I think we as people can be quite judgmental. I think even when I was younger and you see kids playing up and you think, oh, he's a troublemaker or she's a troublemaker, and you don't really stop and think why. And I think as I've got older, I've realised that every kid has a story, and quite often, be it if they lose a child when lose a parent when they're younger. And that can really have a knock-on effect, because quite often in your family it might be a taboo subject. You might be able to share your opinions, you might not be able to share your views, how you're really feeling, and quite often that gets vented up, and ultimately it's going to come out in some way, and quite often it's on other people in school or other social environments. So I think people who have lost their family have often find it the most difficult, and seeing them transition and completely change, I think, is so rewarding.
Did that happen to you as well? You lost your dad soon in your life. Did that created something inside you that at some point you had to vent somehow?
Yeah, I think I was quite lucky that obviously I had my younger brother and my mum, and we almost became a three that were very close, and I was very lucky to be able to have them both. Whereas, like, some of the kids that I've met, I've either lost both their mum or dad, or they've lost one, and they've not had that support, be it with a brother or another parent or another family member. So I can imagine that's even more difficult. But yeah, it is difficult growing up. I think you're not sure how to deal with certain situations because you're used to other kids in school and they've got their mums and dads and they're doing different things. But no, I was very lucky to have my brother and mum to be able to almost come together and be more united.
That support network is absolutely crucial in your life, in anybody's life,
Yeah.
Whatever happens to you when in your early ages. But we'll go back to it in a minute, because I think before we leave Football Beyond Borders, you brought with you Jasper Kane, who of course
Yes.
is the co-founder of Football Beyond Borders, and somebody that I know for a fact you could have been in the city earning millions. Instead, what you're doing is fighting your way in the world, trying to help kids, and to do that, you're convincing the likes of Chris to get involved. How did that happen?
So about 7 months ago now, maybe, someone put me in touch with Chris. He was down in London and came down to, we have a youth centre in Brixton. It was really informal. He just came down just to have a chat, basically. We ended up spending 2 hours talking about the work that we're doing, and also introduced him to a number of our young people.
But how do you manage to get 2 hours from a football player from the Premier League who plays for Manchester United? How do you do that?
Good question. I was wondering myself. I think, it was amazing. It was an afternoon where, in a way, kind of time stopped, and actually it was just about Chris connecting with the young people and hearing their stories. And it's funny, I knew immediately that there was the fit because of the questions that Chris was asking. You know, he was fully engaged and really, really cared about what we were doing. And I remember saying to one of my colleagues, like, you know, we've been going now for almost 5 years and we found the perfect person. And it just so happened that we'd expanded our work in London. We were now working with about 600 young people. We'd always said, you know, it's great what we're doing in London, but why couldn't we go somewhere else? So as the afternoon transpired, Chris sort of said to me, you know, Manchester's now my home. So if you ever think about coming to the Northwest, I'd love to get involved. And it just felt like perfect timing. And he's a man of his word. And I'm sat here now up in Manchester and we're running programs up here.
Chris, are you surprised that there are so many kids that need help? You're talking about a rich country that has got a lot of facilities, perhaps not as many as you would need to please everybody, but certainly there are things to do. But yeah, there are people in need of help.
Yeah, I was quite surprised. I mean, when I sat down with Jasper and we spoke and we saw some of the statistics about some of the areas that we were going to hit in the Northwest and the dropout rates in different schools and how high they were, I think it shocked me at how much in need schools all over the UK are in need of a program like this.
And what a simple idea it is. So you basically, in this program, you give a little bit of classroom stuff, all related to football, and then you go into the pitch, whatever pitch you've got available, and then you make them play. And they don't realize that by doing that, there's a little bit of discipline that you put into their lives. There's a little bit of passion, of something that they feel passionate about. Yeah. They put in passion into that. And you kind of organize their lives. That's what it is about, isn't it?
Yes, so a lot of young people, you know, they become teenagers and they are disengaged. They don't associate with school. They don't see themselves as learners. But when you put them in the context of football, something they're really passionate about, they transform how they see themselves and their peers. So it starts with that basic premise. Start with something that they're really passionate about, get relatable role models with them regularly, and give them content that they can engage with. And if you do that regularly and consistently, and you start to believe in them and you enable them to feel as though their voices are valued, you can really start to see some behavior change, you know? So it's not rocket science, but it does require, like I say, serious investment, both financially but also emotionally. And that's the key, because a lot of people feel as though they're not really being recognized, so they crave that attention and they go and find it in very negative spaces.
The power of football. Mm-hmm. When did you realize, because recently talking to Juan Mata, he said you live in a bubble. You decide to live in a bubble because it's easier than actually every day having to face a lot of other things. You have to focus on the job at hand, and the professional life is not a long life. So you live in a bubble, but out there is all these things that we're talking about. When did you realize that football could have the power to change things?
I think even when I was at Fulham, and that was my first professional contract, I looked up to players who've got so many international caps and Premier League appearances, and I look up to them as role models, and I almost wanted to follow different things that they did, not just on the pitch but outside. And then moving to Manchester United, I think they're even bigger superstars, all of them, Giggs and Scholes, etc. When I joined, and I think even when we're travelling away, be it not just in England or in China, for example, I think the power of football is huge, and ultimately you can set examples where however you act on the pitch and off the pitch is just as important.
But you told me before we started talking that you haven't been into social media has really started for you a couple of years ago. What changed it? When did you decide, oh, actually, this is something I should do because the benefit of it? Yeah.
I think quite often, even when I started playing for United, I'm quite a private person, but like you say, the last 2-3 years, I thought meeting so many other kids with different dreams and thinking that things aren't possible, when obviously my story was something that potentially getting to this stage was really not realistic at all, and I thought social media and getting involved in things gave me the opportunity to be able to share my story, because I know that even when I spoke to a few people about it, how inspired they got, and I know that I can share that on the platforms that I'm lucky enough to be able to have.
To be honest, footballers get involved in a lot of these things, and they sometimes prefer not to do it publicly. But of course, the power that you're talking about helps these things to be successful and then help more and more people. But it also feels like right now there's a cultural shift in that players are more able to talk more openly about everything. I'm thinking of Raheem Sterling. What do you think of his take on racial abuses, on xenophobia, and the things that he's talking about?
No, I think it's important. I think it's full respect to him and to others who have spoken out, like Danny Rose as well, who spoke about mental health. I think that is so important, because and when one player starts to speak up, others then feel the confidence to be able to speak up and get going. And I think ultimately we as players are the ones who set examples on the pitch, but also off the pitch, when we share our opinions and people can see us, that it's not just footballers on the pitch that they see on TV. We've got opinions, we've got views, and ultimately it's important that we share it. And no, I'm for any player or person who shares their opinion.
I'm surprised that the biggest trait that is the hardest to get from people is respect, which is the one that I think if anybody asks anybody else, what would you like to be treated as, is with respect. I'm surprised the stuff that you have to deal with on the pitch. Do you switch off and you think, this is not to do with me, this is just what happens? And are you not tempted to say something back?
Yeah, there's always that temptation, be it on the pitch or even sometimes you have it off the pitch. I think, I think everyone deserves that respect, no matter whether they're playing football for a rival club or they're even in some other situation. I think ultimately that's what everyone wants, and you can be a good footballer, you can be good at whatever career you have, but ultimately I think each individual should be respected. And that temptation is always there to say something, and sometimes you can block it out on the pitch, but ultimately you do hear it, and often you have to either keep it inside you and...
Oh, right, so you take it home? So you will think back of it, say, hours later, if somebody said something to you?
Yeah. No, 100%. I think you can't just hear certain things and some people react and sometimes they can't help it but react, and then sometimes they'll keep it in, potentially share their view in an interview or on social media, which is also the right thing to do. Or sometimes you just take it home and it's not a nice feeling sometimes when you've had that and you can't really sort of release it, because you know that you're obviously in the public eye and it's not really the way to go about things sometimes.
Where you stand in the walking off if you get racially abused? Do you think that it's a good idea to do so, or is, as Raheem is saying, no, better stay because otherwise they won? Where do you stand?
It's a tough one. I think I agree with Raheem, because I think ultimately that will show them up more often if you stay, if you're strong, and ultimately you have a good performance, you win the game or whatever happens. Ultimately you are standing up for yourself. But I think the authorities, they need to do a lot more. I think ultimately, like Danny Rose said not too long ago, how the fines and etc., they're not the things that are going to change things. And ultimately, if the authorities aren't going to change whatever procedures that they have, ultimately, then we as players may have to take a different opinion, and clubs and teammates may have to stick together and potentially walk off. But ultimately, I think something needs to change. I think there is a lot more. It's been spoken about a lot more. I think it's taken a long while to get to that stage, but something needs to change. Otherwise, we as players have to take it into our own hands.
The list that Raheem Sterling has created is a debate. Is everybody's talking about it now, and everybody has realized that some of the attitudes that they thought it was like jokey or banter, they're absolutely wrong.
Yeah.
Do you admire his position in all of this?
Yeah, I do, because I think he's someone who's at the very top of his game, and ultimately, when you're in a stadium, it's a very few people that are ruining it for the whole crowd. So that's why you think of walking off, but ultimately, it's that very few that are disrupting the whole environment and the whole game. But no, I think full credit to Raheem and the support that he has for speaking out on situations which is totally unacceptable.
Often when players talk that openly about these kind of situations, it's because they've got a support network that made them realize what life is like, or there are things that are not right and has to be complained about. Describe your support network. Who are the family that have been helping you to see the world?
Yeah, ultimately my mum, Teresa. We were obviously born in London, then we moved to Kent, and sort of my dad passed away in London, and then we almost moved down to Medway, just sort of I think for a fresh start. And it was.
How old were you when your dad passed away?
I was 5, and then my brother's 2 years younger, so he was 3. So we were quite obviously very young, and I don't have too many memories that I can sort of vividly remember, but I've quite a few pictures, and I've got a few pictures up at home. And
when you look at them, who do you see? He obviously is your dad, but it's a person you didn't know.
Yeah. No, I think it's more. I think it inspires me to make him proud, even though I obviously didn't grow up with him. And even before games, I have like a little collage there's a picture of me. Well, a picture of my dad holding me and my brother, and then I've got different things around it that I aspire to, and I look at that before every game, and just for things to sort of remind me of having no fear and no regrets, and sort of going out there and just enjoying the moment, because I know how precious life is.
Was your mum the one taking you to training?
Yes, yeah, she was quite often. I think sort of growing up, she didn't drive, so quite often it was difficult for me to go to all the different training sessions, but she was often there whenever she could, and quite often I'd be getting lists from some other players, or even in year 6, my year 6 teacher, he was the one that gave me the chance to go for my county trials, and then ultimately that led on to England schoolboys. But if it wasn't for him and even a couple of the other players' dads who were able to take me to my different trials and trainings, I think I was very lucky in that respect that I was able to call on people that was so kind.
So is Teresa the kind of woman that will tell you how things go, or just to stand back and say, if that's your dream, just go for it, I'll help you as much as I can?
Yeah, no, she was very much the second. She was a case of, she was always on at me and my brother in terms of school. I think we wouldn't be able to go out and play football if we hadn't finished our homework, for example, and she wasn't happy with it. She was very strict, and I think I respect her even more because ultimately I feel like she sacrificed a lot of her own life because she wasn't always seeing a lot of other friends, etc. I feel like she sacrificed a bit of her life just to make sure that me and my brother were on the straight and narrow, and we were able to do all our work, get the grades that we needed so that we could fulfill whatever dream we wanted. So no, it was massively important.
One of the hardest quotes I heard in a long time came from you. You were actually talking about yellow food, and you were talking about frozen food and the fact that your family was, or your mom was on benefits, and some people we've gone through that a little bit of not having the money to actually go and get fresh food, and because yellow food you're talking about, frozen from
all the frozen processed food. I think ultimately I'm in a position, lucky enough, where I wouldn't bring up my kid ultimately on that food. I think the odd time you can have treats for sure, but no, I think when I was growing up it wasn't so much of an option to have all the fruits and veg and all this organic, which is brilliant, but ultimately it does come at a price at the minute.
Were you aware of it at the time that there are other alternatives, or just go through life as a kid?
No, to be honest, I think ultimately it was just a case of whatever was put in front of you. Obviously, being in football and growing up, you start to read a lot more, the internet, there's so much more information, but ultimately when we grew up, it was a case of you just had whatever was in front of you, and ultimately my mum would just try to do her best, really.
When was the last time you told her thank you?
I probably don't tell her enough, I think, but no, I see her very often, and now I try to make her life as enjoyable as often, because she's done so much for me and my brother.
To be honest, the way you're behaving and the things that you're doing is a way, it's a merit of her upbringing and the values that she instilled on you.
Yeah, definitely. I think ultimately you do pick up a lot of what your parents brought you up on, and she did. She brought me up to be sort of very hard work and very dedicated, and to be very respectful. I think respecting others was one of the main things that she really drilled home, and to make sure that whatever situations we were in, good or bad, that we conducted ourselves in the perfect way, and that has come from her.
Now you've got lots of stories to tell about your life. You listen to Lukaku; he's got a lot of stories to tell about his own. You talk about Matt, and he wants to write a book about how he feels about the world and things that are wrong and what he has to change. But I imagine that's not the kind of conversations you have in the changing room.
No, it's not. No, to be honest, I think they're not often the conversations we have. I think if one of us, like we see each other's interviews, be it Rom's or he puts a little clip on the internet or something, and then we'll have a bit of a discussion about it. But no, it isn't something that is spoken too often about each other's past, which I think really probably it should, because ultimately, if you know the man a lot better, ultimately your relationship is a lot better as well. But
it cannot happen, because it feels like when you walk into a changing room or into a training ground, you have to put the warrior armor. You are going there for a reason and to battle with your teammates for your position to start with. You have to impress, you have to look and sound strong. You create a character.
No, it's very true. I think quite often, like you say, when you step through the training ground, sometimes it is a different character to the one when you're driving home, and then you walk through your house at home. So it is a little bit sad, I think, at times, that there is sometimes that difference. I think quite often some people are the same, be it at home or at training, but there is that different competitive edge, and like you say, quite often you are very fixated on what you want to do on the pitch that you almost have to try and block out other things, because you've already got so much to worry about, be it who you're playing against, tactics, what the manager's saying, and all sorts of things, that quite often your personal life is, like you say, is often put to one side.
Okay, I'm going to give you a little gift. You can take for a meal anybody, any football player in the world, because you want to get more from their story and you want to learn from him. Who would it be?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
In this restaurant, by the way, you can have any language whatsoever, and you understand each other.
Yeah, yeah.
It can be Spanish, whatever.
I might even stay close to home and say one, because obviously I see him every day, and we speak quite a lot. We're quite close, but I think it would just be nice just to sit down and put football to one side for 1 minute and just have an evening where you just getting to know each other a lot more on a lot deeper level, and see his desires and all the good work that he's doing and where that's really sort of come from its core. And one's someone that's really often interested me, even before I'd obviously started playing with him as well.
You have to tell him, bring your guitar out.
Yes.
And we'll get tea or coffee or whatever you drink, water, and then we'll have a good natter.
Definitely.
Do you play any instrument?
I don't. No, I had got gifted I had like a small keyboard that we practiced at school and a guitar, but no, I didn't. A keyboard wasn't too bad, but I always wanted to play the guitar, but I never really got round to it.
He may tell you that he does, but apparently he's not that good.
No, I'll have to put him to the test.
So you have to put him to the test. But let's go back to your career as a footballer. So your mom was taking you to some training, or your friends.
Yep.
There was a point where you actually could not stay at a club because you couldn't pay the bus fare. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. So I was at Millwall when I was obviously missing quite a lot of trainings because obviously my mum, etc. We couldn't get to a lot of them. It was in London, and so then one of the things that I could get a lift from someone who lived about 10 minutes away, but he was 2 years older. So I often got a lift with him sometimes. So I'd have to train another year or two older. And bearing in mind that for the previous year, I was missing a lot of those trainings. So I wasn't really developing as quickly as I should have in my own age, let alone without going up another age group. So that was a big challenge. And it was quite stressful at the time because I'd have my school and then everything was in a rush because I had to try and get a bus to him so that I could get on a lift with him to the thing. And then ultimately I wasn't developing as quickly as I could. And then ultimately I got released. And then...
How did that feel?
No, it was tough. Now I think as much as I knew it was potentially on the horizon because I was missing so many trainings, and I knew that obviously everyone's at a stage where they're progressing, and then ultimately I was just trying to play catch up.
What age were you?
I was 14. So, but I think as much as it was very disappointing, I felt like it was, I don't know, maybe not a relief, but I knew that I was always playing catch up, whereas now that stress and such of trying to always get there and playing catch up had almost gone to the point that I could try and find another team and really start afresh and know that I could develop along that way.
It's fair to say that the guys that make it to the top, and that's, 1% of everybody that tries, has to have that positive mind frame. Yeah. All right, I've been released, but there is another chance somewhere else. You felt like that?
Yeah, 100%. And even before then, I'd had another setback when I was 11. And speaking of my year 6 teacher, he took me to my county trials, and then ultimately a select few then get to go for England schoolboys. And I got in to the England schoolboys at that age, and then, for the county, and then under 14s or under 13s, I didn't get in. So I went for the trials, and then you have to ring up a phone line, and it says the squad of 28 players, and normally you're sitting there just waiting for your name to be read, which I think is a tough way for, I think, a kid to experience. And
at 11 or 12.
Yeah, and ultimately that starts from 11. So that was very tough to take, I think. I remember ringing it and not hearing my name.
And ringing back?
Yeah, ringing back. I must have rung it about 4 or 5 times, and also got my mum in my kitchen and my brother, etc. And then, because ultimately I'd played the year before and then didn't get into that one, and that was probably my first real knock that I think really hit me and took a little while to recover, because it was very tough to take. But ultimately, I think, like you say, that spurs you on. And then the next year I got in and obviously experienced the Millwall thing as well. But ultimately I felt like each setback that I've had, even if it was setbacks in my professional career, I felt like I've been able to kick on a new level. And like you say, I think at Millwall, I mean, there was like 2-3 players there that were supposed to be the next Zidane and the next thingy, when ultimately, if I saw them maybe like 5 years ago when I was playing sort of professionally and starting out, ultimately they would be nowhere near that level. And I think it is often the ones that have that setback that kick on. Like Tom Brady's someone that I read and watch about as well. And obviously it was all statistics with him and his trials, and look where he is now. I think it does take that inner courage and that fight back to really reach to the top, I think, for a lot of people.
In fact, you went into non-league football, which
Yeah.
is a fascinating ground. Is an area where you've got the ones who want to be professionals,
Yeah.
the ones that don't want to play or train that much but enjoy their football,
Yeah.
and something, the rest in between.
Yeah, yeah.
So how was that experience like?
Yeah, that was a real eye opener for me. I think I credit that for really aiding my development. And I started playing maybe 16, 17 and playing with these full grown men, and I was quite a skinny boy at that time, and I was coming up against these 6'5", 16, 17 stone strikers who saw a kid and thought, oh, I can try and bully him and stamp on him. I'd have kicks, I'd have everything. But ultimately, over that season and a bit, I think really, really made me step up, because although I'd missed a lot of the development when I was a kid, I felt like when you get to 16, 17 and you're almost playing against your own age group, different clubs, but ultimately it's that men's football that is that next step up, why a lot of people obviously go on loan. But that's why I felt like me having that non-league at that sort of age, when I started playing professionally at Fulham, I'd already had that stage of playing with men that aided me and probably gave me an edge compared to some other players, even though they'd been playing professionally for a lot longer.
How often did you train a week?
We trained, the training days were Tuesday and Thursday.
Of course
but
it is, yes.
Quite
Twice.
often we'd have a game Tuesday and Saturday, so we'd only often train once. And more often than not, it was just, would be sharing pitches as well. And like, I remember a couple of times the pitch had been double booked, so you'd end up just taking a little corner and doing something, whereas ultimately training wasn't too much. It was just about often playing games, and I think that's what I really needed and relished, because like you say, it was all stacked against me. I was small, skinny. I wasn't as big as all these other players, but I think it definitely enabled my development.
I'm a chairman of a Step 5 football club in England, Biggleswade United, and I'm trying the players to train 3 times a week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, do you think I succeeded?
Might be a bit tough.
It is.
I guess they've got a lot of other things to juggle on their plate as well. But no, it is very true. I think you do have those people who think they can play up another level. There's the people that are just enjoying it, and there's the people that are obviously having it as a paycheck, because they've obviously got their own jobs. And then quite often when you're playing for a certain non-league size, it's like a secondary income. So no, it was, I really enjoyed it, and I felt like even though I'd missed out on a lot of the development when I was younger, that really helped me and to step up to the Fulham first team as quickly as I did.
I admire those players. I admire the fact that
Yeah.
they put so much into it.
Oh, yeah.
And they try to be there as often as they can. But then when you go to Fulham, you're talking about a completely different place, place of work, really. Or do you see football as a job or as a passion?
No, it was very much a passion. I think obviously it is a job as well, but ultimately it was a passion, and it is a passion because even before I went to Fulham and I was doing my A-levels, I was already going to university in, 6 weeks' time. So once I had 2 trials to go to Fulham and Middlesbrough, it was just a case of I had nothing to lose. And I think having that already the backup of going to uni and having nothing to lose, it was just a case of I'm just going to go for it 100%. And there wasn't really that added pressure that I think when people go for trials, it's almost like oh my God, I've got to do everything right. If I make a mistake, they're not going to sign me and blah, blah, blah. Whereas I could just go there, feel free, and knowing that I could have gone to uni, I would have still played non-league wherever I went to uni and just enjoyed. So I felt like I had nothing to lose. And yeah, stepping into Fulham was a totally new environment.
Have you ever dreamt that you finish uni? Because once you've been so close and you feel it was important, and your mom has been telling you have to push yourself that way as well, academically as well.
Yeah.
Have you ever dreamt that you finish university?
Yeah, to be honest, when I went to Fulham, it was something that I wanted to do because the financial business side that I was going to go into was something that's always interested me and still interests me now. But I think Fulham, I guess, I didn't realise how maybe full on it was going to be. Obviously, I knew it was going to be full time, but obviously you can make time. But ultimately, I wanted to give everything, and then obviously the years go by, but I still keep a keen interest, and there's things that I will be doing now and often after my career that will be in line with what I was going to do at university for sure.
Chris, Fulham want you. Who said that to you?
Roy Hodgson.
Just like that? You got a call from him, or?
Well, no. First I was at Maidstone, and then Bill, who's still there now, he came to watch some of my games and then said about me going on trial. So he was the one that opened the door, and then I met Les Reed, who was there at Fulham at the time as well. And they were both sort of very happy with how I was playing with Maidstone, and I was playing for my county and in the schoolboys as well. And then that's when they offered me a trial. So I went there for quite a while, and Bill McKinley, he was the reserve manager, who was a tough coach. He didn't make it easy, and he really tested me at times, especially when I signed. But to start with, then I trained for a little bit, had a trial game, and Roy Hodgson's in his office at the top because his office overlooks the reserve team pitch. And then Bill said, let's go into his office. And then he almost said he'd love me to sign it. It just started off because he played for Maidstone as well, which is just crazy how it all went round. And then it just went from there, really. It was quite crazy that I was playing this trial, trying to get into the reserve team. And then I've got Roy Hodgson pulling me into his office and having a chat how we both used to play for Maidstone was surreal.
And he says, I want you to stay, and you're just looking at him like, yeah, of course, that's the next step. But inside, you probably were like, oh my God.
Yeah. Oh, it was crazy, I think. I'd obviously had that offer, and then my other club was Middlesbrough. And I went up there for a week with my mum and brother. And Gareth Southgate was the manager then, actually. And they made me an offer as well. So I was almost gone from 2 weeks before, just going to uni, enjoying my football, to then having 2 professional contracts on offer. It was a crazy time, but a time that really felt all of that heartache and setbacks as I was really starting to pay off.
Bill, Les, Roy, Gareth, there is always somebody along the way that has to believe in you. And this is your chance to find that one that you haven't mentioned yet, that is like, if it wasn't for him or for her, who would it be?
I think it might have been my year 6 teacher that I mentioned previously, because if it wasn't for him, one, putting me up for the Kent trials and taking me to the trials and bringing me back and dropping me at home as well. And my mum was very grateful, and we was all very grateful. I think ultimately me getting into those Kent trials then gave me the chance to then play the next year, then get into Millwall and get into the England schoolboys, whereas that was often the start that really opened a lot of doors. And now I'm very thankful for Mr. Molina for doing that.
Is that his name?
Yeah, he was Italian. He was...
You still call him Mr.?
Yeah, I do actually, yeah. We had a BMW at the time, and I think I was just obviously wowed by him. He was obviously a very successful teacher, and him giving me the time to be able to take me to all these different places, and he didn't have to do any of that. It was all just off his own back, which was brilliant.
You're at Fulham, is a professional club now, and of course, once you're there, you think, I can match with the best. You probably think that way, by the sounds of it. You've got that kind of mentality. And then Manchester United, how did that happen?
Yeah, that was, I think, ultimately I was just, obviously my first year at Fulham, I was playing in the reserves, and then I was being that 19th person that travels around, because ultimately that year the team obviously did very well, had Europe, etc., and didn't really change too much. And then the next season...
This is the 19th person. It's just you travel with the squad,
but
then you sit behind the bench, and you make a lot of friends with whom? With the fans, rival fans? Or who do you talk to for most of the game?
No, quite often you're with a lot of some of the physios, like you've got the main physios on the playing bench, but then you've got like the masseurs, and with a lot of the other staff, and ultimately that's good experience when you're young, but... come the end of the season, I was itching to really get going, because I'd been made the reserve captain as well. And then So yeah, then the following season, because we'd got into Europe and we had a great season, that almost gave me more opportunities because Roy then blooded me into all the Europa games, and then the Premier League came from then. But yeah, then so probably about halfway through that season, we was playing Blackburn away, and then I was getting off the coach. Had no inkling, because you often read these stories how these moves are protracted for a long time and agents are all involved, and literally got off the coach and Roy had just gone. We accepted a bid from United, and Sir Alex is coming to the hotel in 45 minutes. And it was just like, oh. So literally not a clue in the world, and it just all happened from there. It was so surreal.
Right. So 45 minutes before Sir Alex comes, and you've been told that. What's in your head?
Oh, my head is fried right now. I think I wanted to tell the people close to me, like my mum, my brother.
So you did ring somebody?
Yeah, rang my mum straight away. I think.
You won't believe this.
Yeah, literally. I tried to explain it to her, and I was trying to get my words out, but back in the head, I was trying to think, okay, he's going to be here all 29 minutes, and God, what are we going to talk about? He's just going to be sitting there. And then I tried to get the chair that was by the TV just to get it positioned right, so where he's going to sit, and it was all just, I don't know, it was just like a whirlwind.
And then the conversation starts. Well, no, he walks into the room.
Yeah.
You are already in the room.
Yes.
And you stand up.
Yes, yeah. So I hear the knock on the door, and then
this is a hotel room or
yeah,
a
hotel room.
or?
No, hotel room.
Okay.
Hear the knock on the door, so I'm like, okay, it's showtime. And then Roy and Sir Alex are there.
They came together.
Yeah, they came together. So then I think Roy just made the introductions.
As if you needed to.
Yeah, exactly. And then he left sort of me and Sir Alex in the room, and then he came in, and I can't even remember his first words, to be honest, because it was all such a blur. But then I remember that we were there for a good hour and a half, just chatting, and ultimately all of my worries about what we were going to talk about, and was all just because, I mean, he's a genius at dealing with people, and obviously being a top manager, I think he just made me feel so comfortable, and no, it was a moment that I'll forever remember.
For what I know, Sir Alex, I bet he was trying to get to know you, and to know your story and what you were made of.
Yeah,
I'm sure he already had all that, but is that what he was trying to get to?
Yeah, he did. I think ultimately he touched on that as well, that he'd done a lot of his own research. He even said before, it's not just about seeing a good few performances on the pitch and then, man, we want to sign you. And him and David Gill would just get the contract out. It was more a case of knowing you as a person, and going through all my previous coaches. He'd contact them, and we'd had a good chat. More, yeah, like you say, more about my personal life than necessarily what's my best position or something like that. It was very much all about me and growing up, really.
How old were you?
I think I was 20, and then 21 when I joined. But yeah, so still very young.
So Sir Alex goes, the door closes.
Yes.
You pick up the phone.
Yes.
And you ring.
Then I rang my mum back, actually.
Because you finished it halfway through the conversation.
Yes, yeah. So no, just let her know how it went, and then I think I told a few of my close mates, because I didn't want to tell the whole world at the time. It was just all so surreal, and then. Yeah, it all just went from there, really. It was pretty crazy.
I guess when you actually wear the Manchester United shirt first, and you walk into the stadium and you go into the Carrington and whatever, still doesn't feel true. Would that be right?
Yeah, no, 100%. I think even when I'd gone up, I'd signed at that time, and then I was obviously on loan at Fulham for the rest of the season. Then I went up for a game. Or actually, no, soon after I'd signed, I'd gone up maybe a few days later, and then met a lot of the team in the changing room, and had a picture with Sir Bobby and Sir Alex, which is a picture I've got up at home.
Where? Where'd you put it?
Well, we just moved, actually, but it was in just at the bottom of my kitchen, like on a nice big wall. So it was something that I could always, obviously in and out of the kitchen, I'd always see, and so I'll have a new home when we move. But no, it was it was a really crazy moment. And even then, when I'd signed, it all just felt, I don't know, like a first day at school type thing. It was just pure joy.
They say that the first few minutes are crucial for the following few months. Depending how you shake people's hands and the players' hands, you look into their eyes, who do you go to first, who do you show respect to?
Yeah.
How did that work for you, all that? Did you look into their eyes when you shook? Who was there? Who was in the changing room?
Who wasn't in the changing room? I think there was Giggsy, there was Scholesy, there was Rio, there was everyone, Gaznev. I think I'd walked in. Did I really give them a firm handshake and a stare into their eyes? Probably not. I think it was just a case of, I really want to meet all you, so I'll just quickly shake your hands and then I'll just go out and see you next season or something. And that's what it felt like at the time. So, but the beauty is that obviously you're walking into all these superstars, but then come the next season when I got to know them all and started playing with them, you just realise that they are normal people. Like even at Fulham, you'd looked up to these people and they are superstars, but ultimately everyone's got their own journey and their own person, and you know that they are really good guys. And
it's good to take them off the pedestal, because then there's when you can challenge them in training and tackle them and go hard on them if necessary. Which the following season, when you come in, did you want to make an impact that way? How did it feel playing with them?
Yeah, it did. I think like our first, obviously we'd come back for a few days for pre-season, and then we would go to America. So that really gave me a chance for sort of 2.5 weeks to really get to know people and like you say, really show what you're about. And I think you are wary of making an impression. I think you've obviously got Wazza, for example, and you want to show him what you're about. You don't want to let him pass. You want to be tight. You want to nick things. And I felt like that pre-season really let me get to know every player and really show players that I'm here to sort of to really stay.
Gerard Piqué talks about a mistake that he made against Bolton, which meant that Alex Ferguson didn't want him anymore. That's how he sees his story. So also he wanted to go to Barcelona anyway, but he was only 19 and he made a mistake and he paid for it. Was that at a time, at some point at the beginning of your stay at Manchester United, that were like, after this, I'm not gonna just be wanted anymore, and the struggles of having to accept that? Was there any moment like that?
At Man United, I know there was one just before I'd signed. I'd played at Fulham. We played Chelsea away, and always a tough game, obviously. And I'd scored an own goal. Quite unlucky, it bounced out, went past Mark Schwarzer, and then Sir Alex brought that up at the time when he came to see me. He said, after that moment, I'd seen you score an own goal, and your reaction after it and how it didn't affect you and how you carried on was one of the main reasons why we signed you. Mm-hmm. So I think that obviously helped in terms of my confidence, in terms of when I go into United, and you're a footballer, you're going to make mistakes. Nothing's going to be perfect, but I knew that I could let the chains off a little bit and not be so uptight and just always think, oh, don't make a mistake. And ultimately a mistake's going to happen. So, but yeah, I think it enabled me that moment to be able to react better after mistakes and not try and dwell on them, because ultimately you need to move on to the next thing, because it's always something always happening.
That's football, isn't it? Yeah. You just have to keep going and going and going.
Definitely.
But at some point you sit down with the likes of Sir Alex, for instance, and you hear something that he's got to say to you. Is that one or two moments you remember, advices that he gave you that help you in your career?
Yeah, I think one of the main bits was in terms of always putting in extra. I think ultimately he used Scholesy and Giggsy as an example in terms of their longevity and what they did off the pitch to be able to extend their careers and become legends at the club. I think that's something that's always stuck with me, and he's always had sort of a no fear policy, and that's something that I try to go into games having no fear and no regrets, and because he puts belief into you instantly. Like in my first season, he wasn't going to play me in this one game or the next game, but then he said the third game, which was the derby, he said, I want you to get ready for that. And he quite often did that. And now he said, you're going to obviously train before then, but I want you to do some extra work with Struds, Tony Strud, because at the time. So I'd literally be training, I'd be doing a little bit of things, different quick ball work, quick feet, etc. And then so that I was ready for the Derby game. And that's the one when Wazza scored the overhead kick. So that was a derby to remember for sure. But yeah, he always put a no fear policy in you, so you always had that belief. So no, that's something that I've tried to keep with me.
You're not one of the few Manchester United players that were there with Sir Alex, and then you've lived the transformation of the club into this massive institution, admired all over the world, rich as well, and still trying to emulate those times. So that transformation, I don't know if you ever had the opportunity to sit down and think, where did we come from and where are we now? If you haven't, would you do it now? What was that move from that times to now? How was it like?
Yeah, I think it was tough, and I think it was tough at the start, and obviously you're still adjusting because time's always changing. But I think, albeit I wasn't there for loads of years with Sir Alex, but I was there for enough to know that how stable it was, and even when players were coming in and out, be it in the squad or not in the squad, or even players that they were signing, it almost just carried on because you had that continuity of the manager. And then obviously you have the change, and then we've had multiple changes since. I think it throws a lot of people, I think, because different managers have different ways of playing, different managers wanting to make mass changes. So it has been obviously difficult, and we've had relative success over the way as well. But no, it's about finding that consistency with one manager and with a group of players that you can work towards something. But no, I think we're definitely seeing that develop. But yeah, it's a difficult time when managers and players are changing a lot.
In a club like Manchester United, there was a managers' club. There was a guy there that did so much. Leadership is so important, and whoever walks into Carrington as the new leader, he has to have everybody's on board.
Yeah.
And it did feel, this is my opinion, that with Jose Mourinho, perhaps you didn't have that kind of feeling. But certainly from the moment that Solskjaer came in, it just feels like nothing has changed from 6-7 years ago. Does it feel like that to you as well?
Yeah, very much so. And I think even when he walks in, and I first met him in the canteen, and he obviously walks in, and like a lot of our canteen staff, the chef, they're all the same. So he's walking in and laughing and joking with all the same people that when he was there, when he was playing. And no, it just felt right, I think. And I think ultimately what he's done on the field playing wise, and then bringing it into management and getting off, literally just hitting the ground running, I think it was just a perfect fit.
People don't think of those things when they think about changing managers. People, I mean, the people outside, people who we know at Carrington. But it's so important, isn't it, to create an atmosphere, more, I would say, more even than tactics or personnel, just to make sure that you're all in the same boat and you're all going the same direction.
Yeah.
Do you have that feeling now that that's happening?
Yeah, 100%. I think, like you say, you can talk about different tactics and whether you play 2 up top, 1 or not, 3 at the back, 2 at the back. Ultimately, it's a mentality and that belief that ultimately overrides all of those things. You can be set up down to a T, but I think if you've got that belief and that belief within us as a team, as a club, and that mentality to all be together, I think that overrides any tactics, even any unlucky situations, a penalty given or anything like that. I think that can ultimately override everything, and that is huge.
It just feels, though, it is a time for change at the same time. The stability, even for somebody who knows where he's going, but you need to be pushed on. All of you need to be pushed on, because Manchester United belongs to a completely different level. Mm-hmm. So it will be a time of challenge for yourselves as well as for the club and everybody around. Do you think everybody will have the patience to understand that there is a change, there is a transformation, there is a period that everybody was a period of grace necessary? Yeah. You think the people will accept that?
I think people will understand it. Whether they accept it, I'm not sure, because ultimately top clubs, no matter what happens, whether the manager changes, the old player changes, ultimately you've got to be successful. And I think these days that demand is never going to let up. But No, I think people understand that the manager comes in. He's going to want to implement what he wants on the pitch, and whoever he might bring in the summer. I think ultimately we always have challenges, and even when we was with Sir Alex, he always wanted the best players. So you knew that for my position, another defender might come in, and even when I'm with Jose, Louis, they always want to bring in some of their own players, and ultimately that is that challenge that I think you thrive, and that ultimately why a lot of players at the top clubs stay there, because they take on those challenges. They don't feel sorry for themselves and the manager, he just doesn't like me, and just give it up. Whereas say if the manager didn't play for a few weeks, it's about showing him what you're about, and then ultimately when you get into that team, you're getting their back again. So I think we as all the players are ready for that challenge because we're used to it. So
I was just going to ask you that. Are you ready for the challenge? Because Chris, by the way, you have to get better. Are you ready to accept that and go for it?
yes, 100%. I think even when Ollie came in, I'd obviously broken my toe, so I'd missed the first lot of games, and then you almost got to work to get back into the team, and then you've almost got to work to stay in the team and then get better, and that's what he demands as well. And throughout the end of the season, we have to get better, and then over the summer and next season, I need to get better, because ultimately there's other players in our team and other players in the world that they're going to be coming. So no, I'm used to that challenge, and that's something that I think makes us all better, and something that if you want to belong to a top club, you need to accept that, and if you're not, then you don't belong there.
So Maurice put together a little list of questions that would allow us to get your teammates a little bit better. So let me find it. It's somewhere here. Let's see, where is it? It's not in this page. It's in the back page, I've been told. Yeah, got it. Right. So these are quick fire questions. You don't need to
Okay, fine.
much about it. But the first one is, people think that Pogba is an enigma. Is he? What is he like?
What is he like? I think what you see on him, be it in interviews or on his social platforms, I think that is what he is. I think he's almost a free spirit. I think he enjoys life. And I think that's really refreshing to see, because in football there's so much pressures, there's so much people being said about you from all different angles. He is someone that loves life and enjoys it, and I think that's what you need to do. Play with a smile.
Are you the Gary Neville of Cristiano Ronaldo with Pogba? As in, are you? Because I've seen you a couple of times in the game against Barcelona, just pointing out things or shouting or making sure that he keeps the concentration. Are you?
Yeah.
He's Gary Neville, are you?
Maybe on the pitch. I think no. I think it's important as a defender to be able to orchestrate, but also point, because you're the eyes of the team. But I think outside of the pitch, I think people can often be themselves, and then if people get out of line, I think we as a team can all come together and say things. And I think it's important that you're able to say things if you think people are doing wrong. But ultimately, I think when you're at the top of your game, you know what sort of limits you can't do.
Who is in control of the music in the dressing room?
The dressing room's Ashley Young. He's the one that is always playing the music.
What is it? What music?
Can be a bit of everything. It can be dance, it can be R&B, it can be hip hop. And to be honest, we used to have a laptop in the changing room where players can come in and just play their own things. And quite often obviously we've got a lot of Spanish players now, and there's a lot of, now Youngie's putting a lot of their music into, so he has to try and please everybody. Mm-hmm. And when he's not there, Paul sometimes gets on there, David even does, but his music taste is not the best.
Well, he likes Spanish pop music.
Yeah, I mean, Spanish pop music, even I don't mind it too bad, even though he plays the same 2 or 3 songs over and over again. Literally, I think when he first joined, he still plays the same song that he played then. But he likes really heavy rock, which he often puts on in the changing room. We've never put it in the game, but it's very heavy rock, which I think not one player is a fan of, I must say.
I can see your face as well that you're not either. But what would be, if you had to choose, in the next game is your choice, what kind of music will you choose, or what song in particular will be the one you want to listen to for a game?
I like quite a lot of different genres, but I think at the minute I'm quite liking, I like listening to a lot of reggae and dancehall, and Chronix is someone who's a Jamaican artist who I was lucky enough to see not too long ago and meet him and have a good chat with him, because he's someone who he's doing a lot of good work obviously in Jamaica, but his music is very inspiring, and he's got a song called Legend that basically the word sums it up as itself. But his whole album, I could listen to it. Like normally you get an album and it's like only like 2 or 3 songs, whereas his I can listen to it through the whole thing called Chronology, and that is something that I think would inspire people, because ultimately his music speaks the truth.
Noted. Anyone you catch singing their own song?
Ooh, singing their own song.
When I asked Mate for a favorite song, and he said, my song.
Yeah.
You're not supposed to do that. He did that. So do you catch anybody singing their own song?
You do. I've sung my own song with a few of my mates, to be honest. Anthony's song is always going on, and he loves that as well. I think we all, as much as when you're in the pitch, a lot of it is blocked out, but often when the ball goes out and the songs are going, I think we all hear them. And I think quite often you catch other people singing your song, and it's just always nice to hear. Even like just in the changing room, we're often singing it, and obviously like after PSG, everyone reeled off all of the songs, and no, it's something that we all love as players, because it's recognising what you do on the pitch and people sort of sharing that love for you.
You're about to be a dad.
Yes, I am.
So say in about 10 years' time, say 15 years' time, you probably are retired by then, and you'll have to tell your kid, they used to sing my song on Manchester United.
Yeah.
Doesn't that sound strange?
Yeah, it's gonna be it will be very strange. I'll have to get a lot of clips of what I was like as a player and different things, so that he doesn't think that Dad is just speaking a load of rubbish and.
But you put the
whatnot.
good clips though.
Yeah, of course. No, the good 5 or 6 minutes. But yeah, no, it's gonna be. No, I'm really looking forward to that, and time's really flown to be able to be a dad. Yeah.
And you'll have to tell them as well that I was in Champions League finals, that you were in big games against teams like Barcelona, that you had to defend the best player in the world, in my eyes, ever. Do you agree that Messi is perhaps the best ever, or do we debate that? Or
I think it's hard not to debate. I think Ronaldo is obviously up there, but I think Messi is. He's definitely number one, whether there's someone else with him or not, but he's definitely up there.
What does he do different that other players cannot do?
I think he can conjure up something out of nothing. I think that's the beauty out of the best players in the world. He can pick it up in his own half, and you know that he has the ability to dribble the whole team. And in big moments, I mean, the amount of free kicks that he scores, and he's a leader as well.
5 years,
which is crazy. No, he is for me. I think he's definitely one of the best, and he's obviously appreciated a lot now. But I think ultimately when he finishes, I think for generations, it's going to be hard to match him, not just on a numbers basis, but as a person as well.
And surprisingly, I heard that you spoke after the clash, and that he thought it was just an accident that happens in the game, and that's it.
Yeah. We spoke after. I didn't realise at the time actually that it obviously caught him like that. But after the game, we just had a brief chat. He just shook hands and knew. He said, "Yeah, it was an accident." And Suarez after as well. We had a good tussle, and he just shook my hand after and just said good luck, and we just said good luck. So it's nice where you can have that battle on the pitch, and then obviously there's full respect for after the game, because ultimately you're just trying to do your best and enjoy the game.
Try not to put the automatic thing on in your mind, but I'm going to ask you just quickly, the return leg, how do you feel? You know, you can't go to the Camp Nou and surprise people.
Yeah, I think so. I think if we can carry on from especially the second half performance, I think where we're really on the front foot and brought that intensity to the game and caused them a few problems when they were trying to play out. I think that's what we need to go there and do. I think we knew that we couldn't go completely gun-ho in that second half, because obviously there's another leg, but now we'll making sure that we go there with no regrets and leave everything there to give us the best possible chance, but we know it can be done.
Not many games left, but one of them is the derby against Manchester City, one in which they made try to get closer to get the title. You may disrupt that, and you obviously have your own fight.
Yeah.
So do you enjoy the derbies?
Yes, I do. No,
Before the derby, during the derby, or after the derby?
All, I think. I love the build up to big games. I love all the analysis that we do and the hype, and when you're walking around town or you're talking with your friends and it's like, oh, I've got this big game, and then you've got a few friends coming to the game. I think I enjoy all of that. And then during the game, I think ultimately that's when there's a lot of tension and there's all the adrenaline's going through, like just through the day. And obviously after, if you win, you enjoy it even more. But no, I think the big games are the ones that where you can really, where really people are counted. You can become legends as well. So I think that's opportunities that we love. And yeah, there's not many games left of the season, but we've got some big ones for sure.
You say you're moving
Yes.
into a new house. So in the living room, there's this big empty wall, and you can put one picture there, one picture that defines you or defines your career, or a moment in football that you thought, like, I wanted there to be seeing it every day. What would it be?
Oh, that's a tough one. I've saved a lot of different pictures sort of from different games or different moments, and one day I'd like to have quite a few of them framed. Which one would be the potentially one would be my Fulham debut, being a professional player and being that dream, and then also lifting my first Premier League trophy. I think even growing up, obviously not grew up a Manchester United fan, but it was always a dream to be able to play in the Premiership and then let alone win it and lift the title and have my hands on it. I think that's a picture that would definitely go up in the new house for sure.
Chris, this has been an absolute pleasure. Thank you very much.
No, thanks for having me.